Today, it's Catch Me If You Can. Again. The chase for Scaife goes coast to coast, and maybe the rest can finally break through in the West.
Ford fans are rough, and Paul Radisich brings it home. Ford's
Paul Radisich made it 3 out of 3 last year, but there's a bigger streak that's waiting to be extended or extinguished. This is round 6 of the V8 Supercar Championship, direct from Barbagallo Raceway, Western Australia.
35 kilometres north of Perth, Wanneroo has a quarter of a century of touring car history behind it, and today maybe Mark Scaife has history ahead. Can he become the first man to win the first 6 rounds of a season? Welcome to Barbagallo, where the weather is fine, the track torture, and the players are trying to piece together a bit of a puzzle this weekend. We've got longer races than ever before here. Today we'll have 2 42-lappers, 100 kilometres each, and a compulsory pit stop for the first time at this track. That'll be crucial because tyre preservation is pivotal. That was illustrated graphically yesterday in race 1, a 100-kilometre event. Mark Scaife started on pole position. That's him on the left-hand side of your screen, his 3rd pole for the year. It was an all-Holden Racing Team front row. Jason Wright in position number 2. They all got through cleanly at turn 1. We'll be talking more about that turn a little later on. In fact, it was clean throughout the entire 42 laps of this event. Amazingly, there was no safety car pulled out, and that's what a lot of guys were gambling on. We mentioned that the pit stop will be crucial. Some of these guys came in early. Scaife was one of the first in. David Bernard then came in. Then Jason Bright came in as well. Bernard gets out nice and cleanly. They were rolling the dice. Who would go in early? Who would go in late? Well, Max Wilson stayed out there. He was one of the stories, again, of qualifying. Poor old Brad Jones, another hard luck story for him in the Aussie Mail Ford Falcon. Greg Murphy in car number 51, he gambled a little bit and came in late, so too did Russell Ingall. And also this man, Craig Lowndes, in the 00 Motorsport Ford Falcon, waited a long time before coming in. Now, the effect of that meant that he had nice, fresh rubber and could take apart this field, which he did relentlessly. It became target practice for the green-eyed monster as Lowndes loaded up, took aim, and then fired past a whole host of cars. Stephen Richards was one of the first to go in car number 16. Then Rick Kelly put on a bit of a fight as Craig Lowndes took him at turn 7. Kelly in car 02 has had an outstanding weekend, his highest qualifying position in his season. Max Wilson started to lose the plot a bit. It goes wide at turn 7, almost ended up in the entrance to pit lane, but rejoins the field. He would finish further down. A disastrous weekend start for Stephen Johnson and the Shell Helix Racing Team. Paul Radisich was also in a bit of trouble. Garth Tander stuck there as well, but what about the performance of Lowndes? He just mowed his way through the field. We saw him take Stephen Richards earlier, then he took on Russell Ingall and won that battle. He started down in around 18th position, Craig Lowndes, and moved all the way up to 5th, but a lock-up then an exhaust problem would ruin his day. A little bump there between Greg Murphy and Jason Bright, and right on the last lap, poor old David Bernard ends up going out. So it was Scaife, Bright and Murphy. Mark Scaife extends his championship lead by another 38 points. It is now out to 679 points overall over Todd Kelly. Now, we mentioned that it is a bit of a puzzle here this weekend because so many things have changed here at Barbagallo. One thing that will be missing this weekend because of the restriction on the number of cars is Larry Perkins. He will not be racing here at Barbagallo, but he will be in commentary. One of the things they've added, though, is a change to here in pit lane, as Greg Rust explains.
Pit lane is noticeably wider this year, 7 metres wider in fact, to cope with V8 Supercars pit stop races. This fresh patch of bitumen here is the brand new fast lane. Pit lane has also been widened or extended a little to create 3 new pit bays for the 32 cars that will contest this round. The pit wall, well, it's brand new. It sits 1.3 metres in height and it's much closer to the edge of the circuit than ever before. It's all part of a $700,000 facelift here at Wanneroo, but mastering the track is as tough as ever.
The final corner of Barbagallo Raceway generates the highest G-force loading of any corner in Australia. The cars are actually braking uphill, so the braking force is so severe you quite often see the teams running a very stiff front spring to try and stop the car bottoming out and quite literally holding the nose of the car off the bitumen surface. As a result, they've got to run a pretty stiff rear spring to try and balance up the chassis. And what that produces is a car that's not particularly good at turning into the corners and not particularly good at putting its power down on the way out of the corners. Lots of wheel spin, very tough on the tyres, on a track notorious for being tough on rubber.
And Marco, if you go a few hundred metres further up the road, you'll find a turn that turned the best into beach bunnies. This is during qualifying. You saw Mark Scape went in there. This is turn one. It's a tricky right-hander, and that's what happened to Paul Radicic. Quite a few of these drivers, a procession of them, ended up in the sand. Paul Morris went in quite violently. Why? Why does everybody do that? Well, it is the busiest corner on the circuit, and there is a real decision to make. Do you hook up another gear? Do you stay on the rev limiter, or do you dance on the brakes? And one simple hesitation will be costly. It's just one of the tricks of this Barbagallo race circuit. One of the other ones involves the surface, and as Barry Sheen stands by, Baz, this place can be like a cheese grater on tyres.
Yeah, you're right there, Matty. This surface is like a bunch of sort of razors, and that's so sharp, isn't it?
It is, Baz, and I guess for you guys, hate to ever fall off a motorbike.
Oh, can you imagine it? There wouldn't be much skin left. Talking about skin, there's it really gave the tyres a pasting yesterday, didn't it?
It does, Baz, and as you can see, this actually is one of our practice tyres, which has got pretty well used. You wouldn't want to try and do a lap time on this tyre at the moment. It just really, this surface eats into these tyres.
Yeah, the thing is, we were all talking about yesterday how you look after your rear tyres. I mean, you seem to be better at it than anybody. How do you do that?
Well, a lot of it's really due to setup, and really we've been practicing and making sure that we have a good car for the race. 42 laps around here on this surface is very difficult. The other thing, though, is driving style. You just got to make sure you point, shoot the car. No lateral load on these tyres because they just won't take the 42 laps.
Yeah, I looked at your left front tyre yesterday because I was expecting the left rear to be really knackered, but it was the left front that was knackered. Yeah,
there's a lot of, because they're right-hand corners, a lot of load on their front tyres. Our car in particular probably have a little bit more, or whisker of understeer more than I'd like. So really we're burning up our fronts more than our rears, which is great. Come to the end of the race, a lot of the other competition is burning up their rears.
And what about the third race today? That's going to be fun on tyres.
Well, it's going to be going back to these, Baz. It's going to be really fun. The car's going to move around, and you know, for us, it's just going to be pinpoint accuracy and make sure we don't start. Well, we stay on the black stuff and don't stay on the dirt.
Did a good job yesterday.
Thanks, Baz. Yeah, it was good.
What happened at the end?
Well, we had an engine misfire, and really we managed to finish the race, but the guys have changed the engine, and we'll get into it today.
Great. Best luck.
Thanks, Baz.
Barbagallo is Western Australia's only permanent racing venue. Craig Lowndes, a 4-time winner here, holds the lap record. The circuit is 2.41 kilometres in length, with a top speed down the straight of around 250 k's. For a closer look, here's the inside line with Greg Murphy.
Well, welcome aboard the Kmart car from the Kmart inside line. We're heading here into turn one at Barbagallo Raceway, 2.4 k's. Pretty short track here at Barbagallo. Turn one, very, very tricky. Often a few incidents there. The stand around here is very deep, so you can't afford to make too many mistakes. Good little chicane. Climbing up the hill here. This is quite steep, a lot steeper than what it looks in the race car. Around this long, sweeping corner. This place is very hard on tyres as we sweep through here, down to the back part of the circuit. Very hard on tyres, very abrasive. And we've got a long way to go around here, long races, and 42 laps is going to take its toll on the tyres and the drivers. Out of Cold Corner, another long sweeping corner, hard to get the power down, very, very difficult. Fifth gear, over the hill here, quite quick, 250k, sixth gear, then hard on the brakes, down to the last turn, the lap is nearly over. Third gear for the last corner, looking after those tyres, up onto the curb, down the front straight, and that should be about 58, 59 seconds. It's all over very fast around here. Thanks a lot.
It's all over in a flash, isn't it, as Greg Murphy takes us through the inside line. 84 laps ahead of us, 2 100-kilometre races to come. This is Barbagallo Raceway. We'll go racing right after the break.
See that a hero can save us. I'm not gonna stand here and wait. I'll hold on to the wings of the eagles. Watch as we all fly away.
Ever wondered what a pit commentator does in his spare time in between races? Well, Greg Rust, our own pit commentator here, took on the challenge behind a V8 Supercar wheel. This is Paul Morris's Commodore. Rusty did about 7 laps, we understand, up at Queensland Raceway, and a big jump up from the kart racing that Rusty grew up with, but he did okay. The time's pretty good. Looks pretty comfy, doesn't he, behind the wheel there? And remember, the Enduros are coming up. Maybe he can get himself a drive. Some good talk about Daryl Beattie also doing some laps that day, and maybe Daryl's got a bit of a future ahead in V8 Supercar racing as they head out on their warm-up lap. We get ready for race 2 here and take a look at the championship points after race 1. Basically, Scaife has just gone further ahead. That's the story of race 1. The only switches come between Bright and Richards. Bright moves up 1 position, and so too does David Bernard. He also moved up a position as well. As we go through the grid, we'll